The beauty industry has made a promise, and it is this. It said it's going natural and circular and sustainable, and I guess it thinks it really means it. You know, the certifications and the commitments and the ingredient decks full of botanicals and plant-derived actives. The intention there is real. But there is a contradiction sitting right at the heart of it, and almost nobody is actually really talking about this openly, which is fascinating. And that contradiction focuses entirely on ingredients that come from plants. Let me explain. Natural ingredients have color, they have scent, they have texture. They look like the plants and the byproducts that they came from, because that is what they are. And yet the moment that a natural ingredient arrives in a formulation that isn't white or clear or odorless, the beauty industry, well, it blinches. And that ingredient then gets bleached and it gets deodorized and it gets refined until the very thing that made it natural has been processed out of existence. We say we want nature, we just don't want it to look like nature, apparently. And today's guest on the podcast has spent 10 years trying to change that. And he's done this by building the world's first coffee biorefinery in Copenhagen, extracting actives from the coffee grounds that the world throws away and making the case that the color brown is not a problem to be solved. In fact, it's proof that their ingredient is real. So settle in and find out how my guest today turned coffee waste into skincare and was then told by the beauty industry that it's the wrong color. Welcome to Green Beauty Conversations, in which I challenge the beauty industry to become sustainable, champion independent and green beauty, and encourage you to join me in making beauty better. I'm your host, Lorraine Dallmeier. I'm a chartered environmentalist, biologist, and the CEO of award-winning online organic cosmetic formulation school, Formula Botanica. We have tens of thousands of students in over 190 countries around the world who study with us to become organic beauty formulators and entrepreneurs. Visit our website at formulabotanica.com to try our free online formulation course. And if you want to be the first person to know what's happening in green beauty, make sure you subscribe to this podcast in your favorite podcast app. So in today's episode, I'm joined by Alejandro Franco, co-founder and chief commercial officer at Kaffe Bueno. With a background in business and biochemistry, Alejandro acts as the bridge between market and research and development, ensuring the company's innovations address real market needs and consumer challenges. He oversees business development, commercial strategy and operations, strategic partnerships, and circular projects. Kaffe Bueno is an award-winning Danish bioscience company that produces functional and active ingredients by upcycling coffee byproducts. Founded in 2016, it has since built the world's first coffee biorefinery, unlocking the full potential of coffee for applications in personal care and nutrition and beyond. Hi, Alejandro. How are you doing today?
Hi, Lorraine. All good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm really interested to hear more about what you do. So let's start with some introductions. Could you please introduce yourself for our listeners?
Yes, I'm Alejandro. I'm a co-founder of Kaffe Bueno. And, well, I'm from Colombia. I live in Denmark. I have been doing this for about 10 years. Yeah.
Sounds good. Okay, well, let's start with some introduction to the business as well then. What is Kaffe Bueno? What do you guys make and sell?
We are a bioscience company, upcycling coffee byproducts into active and functional ingredients for personal care, but also adjacent industries. Basically, we take coffee grounds that have been used in one way or another, and we take what people consider waste, use some green chemistry to break it down, and then use the compounds that make up coffee in different ways.
Amazing. Well, can you give us a bit of an insight into what sort of different ways you're using them?
Sure. So we first extract the lipid fraction. That's an oil. You can think about it as kind of a replacement for argan oil or jojoba oil.
Yeah.
It's very similar in the way it feels, the way it is, the efficacy. Then after we separate the oil fraction, we have the defatted grounds. Those defatted grounds we continue processing, and we separate a biopolymer fraction. That's a very special fraction that nobody has industrialized before. And there's so much in there. So those that we treat as an active ingredient, particularly for SPF boosting, anti-aging, and removing the white cast effect from sunscreens, for example.
Wow, fascinating. Who would have thought that all of that was inside coffee? That's amazing. Yes. How did you get from Colombia to Denmark into coffee? Talk me through a little bit of your journey in creating this business.
Okay. I did my studies together with my two co-founders in London. We started business. Most of our friends were from Sweden, and they are crazy about coffee. And all over Scandinavia, they are obsessed. Yeah. So we drank a lot of coffee with them, and we soon realized that there was a little bit more to what people consider coffee than what it actually is. By going to cafes and just getting curious when we saw that after every espresso, then those coffee grounds end up in the trash. And we just started talking about, or, Googling what is happening with those coffee grounds. And we learned that most of them end up in landfills where they generate methane. If you consider that there's more than 11 million tons or 11 billion kilos worldwide every year of coffee, the waste derived from that would produce the same amount of emissions as 40 million planes going from Copenhagen to New York back and forth.
Wow.
That's the annual emissions of coffee waste, theoretically. So that to us was a problem big enough to start considering doing something about it. And we grew up in Colombia. We grew up seeing coffee not only as a beverage, but as just something you use for different things. I often tell this story, so if anybody's listening who has heard me before, I'm sorry you have to go through this again. Our grandmothers would use their coffee grounds to put it on a wound. Let's say if you fall down as a kid and you get a wound, then they would put coffee grounds to reduce inflammation, redness, etc. Or they would use it to dye their white hairs, gray hairs.
Yeah.
And many different things. So we thought, what is inside coffee that helps reduce inflammation in a wound? And that question led us to just research the hell out of it, to understand what is inside coffee, what makes up coffee. Because most people think of coffee and they think caffeine, but caffeine is just about 2% of coffee. The rest are proteins, sugars, fibers, antioxidants, lipids. But when you make a cup of coffee, you use anywhere between 1 to 20% of that. The rest is treated as waste, but it's actually a wasted resource. We decided to come to Denmark. In 2016, we started the company. We started selling coffee initially that we traded with farmers in Colombia. During the day and during the night, we researched a lot until we were able to design a process that we made a proof of concept project thanks to a grant with a technological institute to prove that we could extract oil from coffee. And then after that, things started to slowly take off. And by 2023, we opened the world's first coffee biorefinery, which we operate here in Denmark. So now we can process a little bit more than 100 tons a year.
Amazing. I'm fascinated by this idea of you're all in the coffee shops in London, you're all going to business school, you've met all these Scandinavian friends, and you've come up with this interesting observation, and then suddenly you leap to, now let's build a business around it. Tell me more about that. What was the mindset behind it?
We thought it was crazy that nobody had done it before. And we thought, why? If in a very naive way, when we started, we were 21. So we didn't know what we didn't know until we found out, and it was too late. So we started looking into what those compounds are usually used for. And we couldn't understand, if there's so much potential, why do people and the world and companies that only care about money, why are they throwing that away if you could actually make so much out of it? And actually, all the transition to a bioeconomy was becoming a big deal politically. So we also thought that it just makes so much sense. Yeah.
I get it. As they say, one person's trash is another person's treasure, right? And I think that's very much the case here. Why Copenhagen specifically? What attracted you to Northern Europe?
Well, we had fun fact. We had never been to Denmark before deciding to move here. But first it was the fact that most of our friends were from Sweden. But that just made us get curious about the region in general. And when we started thinking about the business model, then we started looking into different countries. Statistics showed that the highest coffee consuming per capita region is Scandinavia. And actually, all of those countries are like top 5 in the world.
Yeah.
Then we also knew that it's a biotech hub with companies like Novozymes, today Novo Nordisk, merged with Christian Hansen, CP Kelco, companies like that. We thought, well, we don't know much about biotech, but we feel like it's going to be important. Yeah. And sustainability is highly appreciated here. The recycling infrastructure seemed to be pretty advanced.
Yeah,
so everything made sense.
It seems like a perfect marriage then, really, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So you said Kaffe Bueno operates the world's first coffee biorefinery. For our listeners, what does that mean?
Well, a biorefinery is where you take a raw material and break it down into what it's made of, then find different applications for those components. Similar to what they do in oil refineries, petroleum refineries, but we do it with a bio-based material.
So you're processing about 100 tons a year, you said. The coffee comes in and then you extract the oil that you were talking about and the biopolymer fraction. So where do you source all your coffee from?
Most of it is coming from our investor and coffee company, Coffee Corporate. In Finland, they have a big factory and they have a lot of byproducts or side streams.
Yeah. This is interesting, though, because I've interviewed some other people on the podcast who go around coffee shops, and I interviewed a company that, has a partnership with Amsterdam Airport, and they're collecting all these spent coffee grounds. You went straight to the source, which is pretty amazing, actually. And I'm guessing they must have a lot of coffee waste for you.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, we didn't go straight to them. Initially, we started going on our bicycles every day after work, collecting in coffee shops. And
oh, wow.
Myself and one of my co-founders, we went to about, 80, 90 cafes and interviewed them to understand what was the consumption rate. And we did some small partnerships that got us to prove that could be done. But that exercise also proved to us that was not really super scalable.
Yeah. No, well, that's the main complaint I've always heard. And of course, when you go and collect spent coffee grounds, they're often wet. And you have to dry them. So are they wet when they come from the factory in Finland to you guys?
Thankfully not.
That is an amazing benefit. So they've even taken care of that for you. And then you just receive 100 tons of coffee. That must be quite an interesting amount.
Yeah, I mean, from them we receive a little bit less than that. But we receive a lot of tons that are pretty dry.
Yes, amazing. Yeah. And so then the green chemistry gets to work and you've got part of the refinery is producing the oil and the biopolymer fraction.
Exactly. So we have one part that is the oil and then we have different qualities of that oil. Some people prefer that it smells a lot like coffee. Some others prefer that it's more refined. Then the biopolymers, we also have different versions. One is better for SPF boosting. The other one is a little bit better for wrinkle reduction, elasticity, things like that. So yeah, different unit operations.
How did you discover that coffee contained all these interesting compounds?
Google. I mean, we literally just Googled like what is inside coffee, what makes up coffee. If you Google that today, you will see that there's more than 10,000 scientific papers on coffee associated to health. So the research was there and there's an increasing amount of it since we started. The thing is like it's always remained in the academic world. So we just saw an opportunity to build on that.
Yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit about the beauty industry and how it's received it so far. First of all, what are the challenges of creating and selling coffee-based ingredients for personal care?
Well, I would say challenge and advantage, depends on who you speak with, is that it smells like coffee.
Yeah.
At least the oil, the biopolymers don't smell like coffee. But that it smells like coffee and that it's not white or transparent, which to me is very contradictory because the industry is saying that they want to go natural. So that doesn't make sense. So there's people who love, or there's brands who are really interested in the coffee concept. Then there's brands that are not naturally. But what is difficult is to get the ones that are not interested in the coffee concept to perceive these ingredients as nothing to do with coffee. Like with almond. Like you don't make a whole brand all about almond because you use almond oil.
No.
So why would you if you use coffee?
Why do you think coffee is viewed as such a specialist ingredient then?
Well, there's different reasons in my opinion. The first one is that it's relatively new. Before us, there was coffee oils in the market. They were not upcycled, they existed. but they were very niche. Like in order for me to get information 10 years ago about coffee oil, it was quite the adventure. And without AI, it was very difficult to really get information. So it has not been as widely used as other oils like argan or jojoba or things like that. So it requires some time. But also the color and the smell, especially from roasted coffee.
Yes.
But ironically, that the compounds that give the color are the ones that are the most bioactive.
Yes. Well, we'll come on to that because I think there's a whole piece to discuss there. But just to round this bit off, how has the beauty industry responded to the ingredients that you're selling so far?
Pretty good. I mean, we have 16 distributors in 40 countries. We have active revenue in 26 of them.
Amazing.
And we see a 3x year-on-year growth on volumes. So I would say that, a pretty good reception. It's been very slow, in my opinion. But it's getting there, especially with the increased attention that the upcycled ingredients have gotten in the last years.
Yes.
When we started, I went to In Cosmetics. I remember my first In Cosmetics 2017, 2018. And I was going around with a little bottle of coffee oil in my pocket, trying to get distributors. And every time I talked about upcycling, they were like, do you mean recycling? No. But then after Corona, everything changed. After Corona, Everybody knew about upcycling and everything became, so it was very good.
Yeah. Oh God, it drives me wild. I mean, I always say that the beauty industry didn't become aware of sustainability until the COVID pandemic. For some reason, they all started talking about sustainability in the same year. And then now when you go to trade shows like In Cosmetics, literally every other stand is about upcycling. So you must be laughing when you're walking around there now going, come on, guys.
I've seen the companies that ask me recycling and now they are all about upcycling. So in a way, I love it because they are amplifying the message.
Yes. Yeah, it helps you guys. I mean, sustainability is obviously a big part of what you're trying to achieve as well with Kaffe Bueno, by the sounds of things.
Yes and no. The whole thing started as, and continues to be very important, to be as sustainable as possible. That gets you a foot in the door, you could say, with customers. But once you are in the decision-making process, what they really care about is performance and cost.
Yes.
Sustainability is, I would say, a qualifier rather than a value driver.
Yeah. That makes sense. Everyone still wants the efficacy.
And they should, because if you are putting products in your skin that are sustainable, but they don't work, who cares?
Yeah, no, I totally get that. It has to be a combination of both. Well, let's talk about color, because I know that this is a topic that is very near to your heart and to mine. Talk to me first about the color and smell of the ingredients you sell. You've already touched on it a little bit, but let's just do a quick recap.
Yeah, so when you look at the coffee oil, it looks pretty brown. And when you look at the semi-refined version, like golden brown. It's funny to me because when you start talking about the whole concept or the portfolio, people get very excited. But once you show the ingredients, they get shocked. It's like, I mean, what did you expect? It comes from roasted coffee. But I've just seen that the use of prototypes is very important because if they see a cream where even though you are using the oil, it's not as brown, then it's okay. But I think anyways, the whole perception of non-white is hindering the industry to move in the direction that they all say they want to move.
Well,
towards.
Talk to me a little bit more about that, because you're quite passionate about this.
Yes.
So why should we have more color in our cosmetics? Maybe you could start actually by talking to us about what the refining process actually does to your ingredients, because I think a lot of people won't necessarily understand that.
In general, if you take any ingredient that comes out of any biomass and you want to specifically remove the color, you're taking a bunch of volatile compounds that in most of the times are polyphenols or different aromatics that are giving a lot of activity and biological efficacy, basically. The reason why you as a consumer are buying the products is because of the efficacy and what the benefits that they will bring to your skin. So by asking ingredient suppliers to reduce those compounds, you are telling them, make them less effective to match standard that people hundreds of years ago imposed and that consumers today are actually wanting to move away from.
Basically, what the beauty industry does then is it produces all these products that are white as snow. And what would you like to see the beauty industry do in terms of its ingredients and color?
If you want nature in your products, then bring nature to your products, but with the whole spectrum of what that means. If you cannot pretend to want natural products, but then remove nature of the products, it just doesn't make sense. If you think about it, why is it so important that it's white? Who is saying today? I'm not questioning the past, because I'm sure that standard became in that way for a reason. And I know that a white emulsion reflects stability and, a properly emulsified, like we all know about mayonnaise.
Yes.
Like it just happens because of the small bubbles and the light refracts and so on. But what I'm going against is not white. It's the pursuit of it.
Yes.
Because that's just not allowing the industry to do what it says that it wants to do. That's kind of my issue.
Do you think it really wants to do it though? I mean, I've seen materials from cosmetic science courses and degrees around the world where they talk about adding the botanicals as a marketing story rather than as a means of creating something efficacious. And I have spoken to many, many people from the cosmetics industry over the last 10 plus years, and the main message I've often got back is that they don't always take the botanicals that seriously because they don't necessarily think that they work, because a lot of the science hasn't really been done on it.
That frustrates me a lot because
yeah.
What is science? Science is a human-made language to explain the laws of nature. So just because you are not able to explain it today doesn't mean that it's untrue, because suddenly in 1 year a scientist will discover that this works, but it doesn't. It's not that now they made it work. Now they can explain how it works. So if you look at how indigenous tribes have been doing things forever, since before science was a big thing, they knew how to interact with nature in such a way that they treated themselves with it. So the fact that scientists today are skeptical of nature, to me, is just like very egocentric. You are nature. What are you talking about? I don't understand.
Yeah. It's the same with medicines, for instance. So many of them come from nature. So it is crazy that we've all been given this idea that all of the chemicals in our lives need to come from a lab, when originally they, of course, did not. Saying that, I mean, we've learned a lot through science over the last 100 years, and cosmetics have become better for it. But there is absolutely a place, in my opinion, for natural ingredients to play a big role in that.
Maybe I'm deviating a little bit, but I don't know if you have heard of this story, or many stories from pharma companies that go actually to indigenous tribes, and then they take the compounds out of the medicines that they have created from nature. So, for example, an indigenous tribe would know that they need to take this specific combination of plants in these proportions and boil it for X amount of hours. And then they use that to make an ointment for their arrows so that they dip it and can poison a bird. But the boiling process makes it so that by killing the bird with the poison, it will, or the monkey or some animal, will not kill them by eating it, but will have enough poison to do that. So then some scientists from Switzerland came there from a pharma company and used that compound in a similar way. And then they patented to launch a drug. But then, it's these lab coats that are getting the credit for what nature actually does.
Yes.
And then if you think of botanicals, in cosmetics, if you are so skeptical, why not let's find a way to explain it, to prove that it's efficacious enough to replace what you consider today to be the best solution, instead of just blocking yourself from the possibility of expanding what you consider to be true.
I completely agree with you. You are preaching to the converted. I'm sure everyone listening is nodding along with you as well, going, we completely agree with you, Alejandro. So this is wonderful. And I love the fact that this is a really big part of your organization as well. You have a campaign around coloring cosmetics, don't you? What's it called?
We are nature.
We are nature.
More than color is just about, reminding people we are not our jobs. We are not our LinkedIn. We are not these titles and BS. We are literally, in the most basic level, we are nature. So if you are not able to trust what nature already provides, how can you trust yourself? How can we go green if white is standing in the way?
Wow, that's a very powerful statement. I like that. So I'm sure everyone listening is nodding along, as I said, and they're very much in agreement. Talk to me a little bit about where the business is now. You've been going for 10 years. You've got these ingredients. You're out there in the beauty industry. Tell me a little bit more about how things are going.
Good. It's a roller coaster, as any small company might tell you. But generally good. We're seeing increasing demand by those triple demand in volume, particularly for the oil, but the biopolymers is growing a lot. We recently onboarded a new CEO, which comes with more than 20 years of experience doing all the things we want to do, but he has actually done them. So very excited for that. And starting to open some new industries. Exciting.
Well, exciting times ahead for Kaffe Bueno. Do you plan to launch any other ingredients in the future? Are you sticking with the two that you have?
I have made a mistake in the past of oversharing these type of things. Then I hear a lot of people asking for them.
Okay.
So I'm going to hold myself this time.
That's fair enough. There are two ingredients you can go and buy. And I know a lot of our listeners are formulators or they have small indie beauty brands, and they'll be wondering what your minimum order quantities are for your ingredients. So if a new formulator or an indie brand wants to reach out, is that possible?
Yes, they can. Our MOQ is for the oil is 10 kilos today. For the biopolymers is 5 kilos.
And people can get in touch as well for samples, presumably.
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, so I guess the only question I have left to ask you is, where can people find out more about you and Kaffe Bueno?
Our website, kaffebueno.com, or if you're going to In Cosmetics in April in Paris, we'll be there. We co-founded this new collective we called Circular Cosmetic Collective. I don't know if you've heard of it.
I have not.
It's basically 10 startup scale-up companies that are doing upcycled ingredients, and we partner up to amplify the message, basically to share information about circularity, challenges that we're dealing, all of us, and how can we support the brands in the transition to this type of ingredient.
What a fantastic initiative. Well, good luck with everything. We'll put the link to Kaffe Bueno in the show notes. So if you're listening thinking you need more coffee in your formulations, go and click on that link. Get in touch with Alejandro and his team. Thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today. It's been really lovely talking to you.
Of course. Thank you for inviting me. Tell me a little bit more about your perspective on the color thing. I just rambled for a while, but I want to hear yours.
Well, I'm actually going to record an entire opinion piece for next week on that as well. But I am very much aligned with what you said. The proof of a product's authenticity comes from its natural color. So if you're stripping out color and you're left with something that doesn't contain the beneficial properties, the antioxidants, etc., then you're quite right. You're just selling a bland, boring product. And that's very much how we've always framed it at Formula Botanica as well. But as I said, there's a whole opinion piece coming out next week. So for everyone listening, make sure you tune in to that one.
Looking forward to that one.
Thanks for joining me, Alejandro. See you soon.
Thank you, Lorraine.
Bye. I would love to hear your thoughts on this episode. Do you feel that coffee is a specialist ingredient for your formulations, or do you think it could become as commonplace as, for instance, almond oil or jojoba oil? Leave us a comment on our social channels, as both the Formula Botanica team and I love hearing from you. And if you want to hear some more episodes about the topics we discussed today, please do delve back into the podcast archives. Some great examples include episode 299, which released earlier this year. And I interviewed Cynthia Starts of Kaffe Inc. on their mission to turn the world's coffee waste into skincare. Or episode 59, going back in the archives here, where I interviewed Anna Brightman of Upcircle on the way that Upcircle collects waste materials to create their beauty brand. There is a wealth of information in our old episodes, and I do encourage you to go back and listen to them. Thank you for joining Alejandro and I for this latest episode of Green Beauty Conversations. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please do leave us a 5-star review so that other people can enjoy these conversations too. And make sure you subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or whatever your favorite podcast app is, and stay tuned for the next episode. Follow Formula Botanica at Formula Botanica on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, Pinterest, LinkedIn. We're everywhere. And come and give me a follow at Lorraine Dallmeier on Instagram and LinkedIn. Visit our website at formulabotanica.com and sign up for our free online formulation course today.